BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Chapter 4, Section 85 of the New York City Charter, a meeting of the Bronx Borough Board will take place on Thursday, October 24th, 2013 at 9:15 a.m. This meeting will take place at 198 East 161st Street, 10th floor conference room. We have 4 items on the agenda. I'll go through them as we get to them, but I want to get started. The first one is an overview of services for Bronx constituents. We have a presentation by Maureen White, who is the Director of Community Partnerships for the New York City Department of Small Business Services. Maureen? Oh, she's with him? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And we also have Anthony M. Hernandez. Sorry, I thought she was a replacement for you. I should have checked. Who is the account manager for Business Solutions. Good morning, and thank you for being here, both of you.
Thank you for having me. Oh, okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anthony Hernandez, Senior Account Manager of NYC Business Solutions. Here present with me is Maureen White from the Department of Small Business Services and my colleague Victor Valentine from the Bronx Division of NYC Business Solutions located at 400 East Fordham Road. So this morning we're going to go over the presentation on behalf of Workforce One just to give the overview of services that we provide for the residents of the Bronx. We want to make sure that, you know, after this informational session, that the next steps are to reach out to each 12 of the community boards respectfully here, just to provide more of a direct service to the constituents that you provide services to for your respected areas. So I guess we'll begin. I don't know if there's an overhead projection.
You got to turn it on. Yes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Press it again. I'm just working out the kinks. Can everybody hear me? Yes. All right, great.
So as we get everything focused, I can just jump in and speak to the agenda items as Anthony alluded. We'll just spend some time to go over the mission and the core expertise of the Workforce One system, also to touch base on our services that we offer for candidates that walk into our system, and also what we are doing to build partnerships with community organizations and the community boards.
Okay, so I guess I'll just get started. Workforce One is... Push it back. Okay, I guess we'll try to improvise. All right, Workforce One is a service that attracts, prepares, and connects qualified candidates to job opportunities in New York City. Our key tools for making strong matches are recruitment expertise, industry knowledge, and services to strengthen candidates for employment prospects. A job seeker, there we go. Get in there. All right, a job seeker must meet specific criteria to be referred to Workforce One. And this is, where we ask all of our community-based organizations and partners to really hone in on the search when identifying candidates for particular job opportunities, making sure that when they're coming to the center that they're prepared. The job seeker must have a specific job opportunity in mind, have a resume, be able to interview successfully, have professional clothing, and not have any barriers that would prevent him or her from going to work. The core competencies, primary strength, demand-driven workforce development approach, relationship with hundreds of businesses, thousands of job opportunities at any given point in time across a variety of sectors and occupations. Especially now we're gearing up in the holiday season rush where we're identifying job opportunities, in particularly with the retail security divisions, but also with a various variety of job opportunities that we have shared amongst all the different centers within the 5 boroughs. So we want to be able to make sure that when the candidate comes into one of these centers, that they're well versed in Workforce One and understanding the job opportunities that are created across the board.
Yeah, just wanted to highlight some of the things that we do, but not on a consistent basis, is definitely providing individualized attention to some of our candidates that come through Workforce One. Just because of sheer volume, it's difficult for us to give one-on-one attention to some of these candidates, and also assisting them in resolving some serious barriers that they may have to employment. So I just wanted to allude to why things we do not do, but just speak on, because of sheer volume, these are why we are not focusing on any of these things.
Okay, here you
So this actually speaks to the multiple locations that we currently have through the city. So there's about 19 Workforce One career centers, including of that is also 7 NYC Business Solution Centers and some expansion centers that deals with interview prep workshops and a few others. These are actually on a smaller scale, but these are also considered some of our centers that we do see job seekers.
Here you have a demographic of 2012 placement overview on the top occupations, developing job opportunities for within retail salespersons, security guards, cashiers, customer service representatives, and home health aides. As you can see on the right-hand side with the breakdown criteria as far as salary rates, which is concerned, pretty much the salary ranges of what we identify on a consistent basis for particular job opportunities in those sectors. Okay, the traffic flow from what we see, over 172,000 candidates visited our system last year, and then here shows a breakdown of the percentage from each borough and even outside of the borough with places like New Jersey, Connecticut, that we see some type of traffic flow within the outer boroughs. 4% in Staten Island, 10%, Manhattan 12%, and the Bronx 18%. Living in the Bronx, Queens 23%, and Brooklyn 34%. Okay. Business development target in these sectors. The projections that we're looking to make for 2013 from identification of job opportunities, we're looking at in retail trade, approximately 12,000 open positions that we're identifying between, the specialized centers that focuses on developing jobs in this area, as well as other centers who also identify and participate in those needs when we identify. Just to break it down, every center that is responsible for creating job opportunities, making sure that each center is provided with that opportunity to offer their constituents that walk through those doors retail opportunities, as well as healthcare and social assistance, We're projecting about 5,000 job opportunities there. Accommodation and food services, 6,000 positions. For professional, scientific, and technical services, 1,500. Informational positions, 700, and finance and insurance, like the bank industry, about 600 positions, and in industrial sectors, manufacturing, wholesale trade, construction, transportation, about 5,000 job opportunities we're projecting. Okay, structure and services that we provide to our candidates that walk in through our centers, and just promotional-wise when we're trying to get the word out of the services that we offer. Definition, well, the demand as far as identifying job opportunities, which the account managers are responsible for creating on a day-to-day basis to drum up more opportunities for constituents to be able to offer. Desire of for services or products. The employers have a demand for workers. And, you know, again, when we're networking with these companies, we're indicating to them that we're providing a service by pre-screening these candidates, verifying that they meet job criteria, and we're eliminating the human resource aspect that would take them away from focusing on their business to be able to you know, provide that funnel of candidates when we identify those job opportunities. And don't mind me, this is like my first actual real presentation, so I'm a little bit jumbling. But again, you know, our role and responsibility as account managers is to network with these companies and to be able to sell them the service that we will be pre-screening all job-ready candidates to match them with the opportunities that they have in their respective businesses. The supply and the recruitment aspect, the definition, availability of services or products. Workers are the supply that employers want. When we work to identify qualified candidates, we engage in recruitment. So, you know, the recruitment aspect, when we're doing open calls, we're advertising in particular job orders that we see on a large scale volume, through advertisements like monsterjobs.com, Craigslist. We're doing that on the behalf of the employer. So again, their main focus is to try to focus on their day-to-day business while we're identifying candidates for them and you know, making that match on their behalf.
So just thinking about our number one priority, it definitely is to work with and help New Yorkers succeed in their job search. So Workforce One ideally deals with that, and we try at every moment to deliver great customer service and making sure that we are treating everyone that comes through our centers with the best that we can do. So it's making sure that they're professional and also being very respectful, making sure that our staff is very knowledgeable and looking to help that job seeker find the opportunity that suits their qualifications. Thinking about the additional services that we do offer, we did speak to about job screening. So that's looking at the qualifications that the candidate has and matching them to the opportunities. We also do that in a scale called recruitment events, where we do advertisements that generates traffic that comes in through our doors across the city that we'll be able to work and fill for opportunities on a larger scale. Every candidate that comes through our doors is also assessed and given some sort of advisement as to what it is that they're looking for, understanding their qualifications, and making sure that they have a goal, and we're working with them to attain that goal. We do also have trainings and workshops that candidates can take advantage of and will refine their skills. I'll actually go through on the next slide talking more or less about those workshops. So there's the resume workshops that we currently offer. There's two focus on that. One is if you do not have a resume, you can definitely come into our centers and design and create your first resume. If you've been out of work for a number of years, but you're looking to upgrade that resume or upgrade the skills, we definitely have another component to that resume workshop that talks about these are the components that you need, because as you know, times have changed. 5-page resumes are definitely not something that employers are looking at, and we're working with them to help make sure that they're editing to the best of their ability and the qualifications that they're indicating is what's necessary. Also, there's an interview prep workshop. So if we've met with a candidate and the candidate presents themselves well, but there are certain questions that they're not answering, we have workshops that can definitely prepare them for that interview with the employer. Thinking about training, we have an individual training grant, which is competitive, and it's somewhat of a scholarship that candidates can definitely take advantage of. The funds are offered for occupations that are growing within New York City. We are looking to roll out new occupations next Monday, October 28th. And those are basic occupations. So it's looking at the bus drivers, looking at the CDL A, B licenses that are being offered, looking at line cooks, and CNA and armed guard security type occupational training that we're doing. So speaking about the competitiveness of the ITGs, there's always some sort of eligibility criteria for many of these programs. So a job seeker must definitely have some appropriate work experience in education that will fit them into getting on the track of being trained for that opportunity. So to be active, the current either not employed or currently employed and making less than $57,904, be ready to work immediately after training. And of course, they need to be registered with Workforce One in order to take advantage of this training. Applications, candidates can visit all of our Workforce One centers and can definitely be enrolled for an ITG. The steps are basically they'll take a skills test, they'll complete an application, they'll be interviewed by a career advisor, and this process takes about 4 to 8 weeks. So timing is definitely of essence, and if a candidate is definitely serious about upgrading skills, they know the expectation that it may take a while. This is more of a pictorial as to what I just described. So if a candidate comes in, we're assessing them on education minimum, looking at the occupational assessment, helping them or looking at the application, making sure that they are completing that. Then they're interviewed, they're awarded, and then they're placed. I'm gonna skip over this one. The next program that we currently have is an initiative that we're working with the Robin Hood Foundation. It's on the veteran focus, so it's looking at all the veterans that are coming home from Iraq and coming home from war and providing priority one service. So what does that mean? It means that we're committed to work with all veterans that are coming into our system to make sure that they are getting the job opportunities that are required. And our definition of veteran is basically anyone who served at least 1 day in active military, naval, or armed services, National Guard, or the reserves. And this is actually also available to their spouses. So if a veteran is coming home, they're looking for help with their resume interviews or getting back into the workforce, Workforce One is definitely there to provide that service level, not just for them, but also for their spouses.
In addition to that, just the other day, yesterday, I participated in an event with the Jericho housing facility that specializes in the veterans, and we want to really take an aggressive initiative to reach out to organizations similar to that, or veterans in general, just to re-engage them and assist with career opportunities to re-engage them back into the workforce mode. So that's something that we're very passionate and focused and driven to spread the word and get the word out there.
And just thinking about that and how the teams are structured, so we have about 8 veteran specialists that are in the 7 Workforce One centers, which are dedicated to working with the veteran job seekers to find them employment. We're identifying all veterans that are coming through our doors via intake forms and just checking their status, making sure that they are working with us to take our services. We do work, they do have dedicated career services, and also we do have regular follow-ups with them. So there's weekly communications that's going out to ensure that they are being re-engaged and we are finding the best appropriate opportunities for them. And we also communicate with them via blogs, Tumblr, and just a lot of email marketing, social media, to get them involved with Workforce One. Another way of us working with our community, we have a community partners program, which basically works with community boards, works with all organizations that are looking to get New Yorkers back to work. So we have partnerships with over 400 organizations throughout the city, and we connect with our partners on specific job opportunities.
Here in the Bronx specifically, we also work very closely with Dion Binns from the Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation, Sobro, Nos Quedamos. So we want to try to really spread the word and unison amongst the community-based organizations here in the Bronx, the 12 community boards between the initiative on Hunts Point and Fordham Road, collaborating efforts to really going out and spreading the word about our services in the respected areas. And that's where you guys come in.
The objective overall of the program is to develop that expertise with the community organization so that Workforce One is working and sourcing with the right partner to get the right candidates in through our doors. It's also to provide information to partners about job opportunities and various services that they can access. If we're looking at 2013, I know we're almost over, but our goal for this year is to potentially source about 8,000 candidates. It's not necessarily there for the number, but we're looking to place at least 4,000 of those candidates into jobs from community partners. I know it says 20%, but. The program design, like I said before, we are working with community organizations, we're working with educational facilities, we're working with all sorts of different entities to ensure that the candidates that we are getting from these organizations are the fit for the opportunities that we have. This is just a quick pictorial about the overall process. Everything is about communication. So we communicate twice weekly to our community partners, not even to our community partners, but also to our job seekers, letting them know of various opportunities that are happening within Workforce One. This just gives a quick overview as to the overall referral process. So candidates are referred by community partners, they attend our workshops, they're screened, and then they're referred out to opportunities, and we do provide them feedback as to whether or not that candidate's been placed. We've developed through Workforce One and also for our community partners, we've developed, of course, internet, web-based tools that the partners and also even job seekers can take advantage of. As you know, nyc.gov/Workforce One, you'll see all the opportunities that are available through all the Workforce One centers, when courses or workshops are actually happening, and also career opportunities. So this was actually developed for the community partners to see these are some of the opportunities that we can afford to their constituents. Not only do we do all workshops, priority one, but we also provide reasonable accommodations. So if candidates are coming in and they have some sort of a disability, we are required by law to have some sort of reasonable accommodation to ensure that they are taking advantage of our services. Candidates can also go through like notice of grievances, and we also do have language access for our candidates where English is not their first language, that we can definitely get interpreters and so on out to not necessarily to understand, but yes, to understand what it is that they are saying and to communicate. Because as you know, especially for the Bronx, majority of the candidates that we see are Spanish, and if we do not have someone on staff, we can definitely use our language access to take advantage of that. And that basically wraps it up. Any,
Could
no?
you turn that light off?
Sure.
Thank you. That
you.
was quite comprehensive. Very comprehensive. I have a question. This. The homeless, people who have lost their jobs, fallen on hard times, how are they accommodated? You know, if they're living in a shelter, I know most employers will not accept that as a legal.
To sustainable housing.
So they should definitely be coming to you for services. Okay. Could you come to the microphone, please?
Again, thank you, everyone. My name is Victor Valentine. I'm the Assistant Director for Community Partnerships with the Bronx Workforce One Career Center on Fordham Road. And as Mavreen said, we do have a strong connection with the shelter population. I myself do screenings at about 20 different shelters throughout the year on a rotating basis so that we can capture their clients. So we're
good.
very well plugged in.
That's good. Okay. Bob?
Robert Finuzzi, Community Board 8. First of all, I want to thank you for coming. This is really good timing. I'm going to use that word again, Andrew, that I used last night, propitious. The good timing is that we, in Community Board 8, have roughly about 600,000 square foot of retail space coming online. And we urgently require your services as part of our outreach to our residents, to our citizens, to make sure we maximize the community benefits that are promised by, in particular, one which is an EDC development approved by this board. So we will talk about that, but more importantly, I wanted to reflect on what I learned today and also ask you a couple of questions. I've always included increased funding for Workforce One and NYC Business Solutions in our capital, in our expense priorities. It is demand-driven, as you say, and we have had you up here for a short time in the Northwest Bronx, beyond Fordham Road. And it's been frustrating because it is demand-driven, and once we get the trickle dies away, you've camped out in an agent has camped out in our development corporation office, then it goes away. And that's frustrating because we have a burgeoning population of youth without resume preparation and without proper educational attainment to even get them into these entry-level jobs that you're talking about there that predominate the 12,000 retail. So what I'm taking from this is that it's kind of a triangular system, as I see it. It's us, it's you, but then it's your community partners. And what I would like to do is have a conversation about where you are and in the referral system, because that supplies you with your traffic. Okay, that's clear to me, and we don't know that we have that relationship, and I don't know if other boards feel that they have that relationship, in which we know about the community facilities and the community-based organizations, but we don't know if they're connected to you, because they should be sending you their graduating seniors and their constituents to get this kind of training, rather than us just trying to announce and scare up enough foot traffic to get them into your office. So I have to say, it is frustrating that you are limited to Fordham Road in terms of the north. We would like to have a storefront. We would like to have a physical presence. But in the interim, we really want to make sure that we are cross-referencing with our community partners, because we know them, we work with them very closely. We have wonderful facilities that we'll tell you about as we talk more. But that's what we need to work on, that triangular system.
Right.
One last thing I'd just like to say is that, could you tell us qualitatively, what is the biggest obstacle you face to job placement when you work with a client? Is it education? Is it language? Can you tell us just about that? What is your biggest obstacle? Because a job seeker success is not made in your office. I mean, it's a lifelong process, and there are family things and there are educational background that provide, as you know, better than even odds for an applicant coming your way. So could you tell us about the biggest challenges that you face?
The biggest challenge actually is education. Education and having the qualifications necessary. Given the fact that we are demand-driven, we are working based on what the employers are asking, a lot of the opportunities that we are getting are looking for that high school GED and more. There's a limit to the amount of opportunities that we're getting that says no education required, and that's one of our biggest obstacles. What we are doing internally, we're looking at the candidates that are not being referred based on this criteria and trying to figure out what can we do to get them to the next level. So that's something that SBS is taking on, and we're looking at the workforce system. We're doing sampling right now to see exactly what's that mix, and also trying to identify community partners in which we can then refer them out to, like outbound referrals, to get them ready as well.
And one last thought, do you keep data on the, basically the people who don't qualify? Do you have measurements, because I think this is important for DOE as well to see at some point. Do you keep that kind of record of who's coming in and who's not making it, just so we're able to see if the educational system is preparing our students for a job interview?
I can definitely check, but
That'd be very important.
you have that?
Because I know for the community partner aspect in Hunts Point, we have a liaison that really goes with the back and forth rapport on the candidates that were referred to our centers, and then outcomes based off of that, and any barriers that happen that we have to address, especially when they're coming in for a particular pre-screening. And I think this is one of the major initiatives that we're taking, a collaborative efforts between Hunts Point and the Bronx Center to really take an aggressive approach to go and visit each individual community board, where we're going to split up, where South Bronx is going to be focused by Hunts Point, where we'll take the community boards from 1 through 6, whereas Victor would then continue his efforts from 7 to 12. To really, and I guess what we're asking for is an invitation for us to visit your areas, district service cabinet meetings, which I'm very familiar with, just so that way, once we create that initiation to getting ourselves in those areas and getting our, having that, or creating that very strong dialogue, from there it's just a matter of bringing you on board as a community partner, so that way if you do have constituents that you send our way, then we could keep a tracking system and give you feedback on those outcomes for accountability purposes. It's a two-way street, if you think about it.
Ken?
Hi, my name is Kenneth Kearns, and I'm here with my chairman, John Morano. We're from Bronx Community Board 10, which is the Northeast Bronx, kind of the direct opposite of the Northwest Bronx and Community Board 8. And I would like to echo Community Board 8's statements. We've had for a long time been asking for a satellite representative to come to our board service area, and we offered on numerous occasions, many occasions, especially during budget consultations, the opportunity of using our office. We would set up a desk for the individual. We give them a computer, give them a phone, give them complete access to anything they need. It's never been taken up.
Okay.
We've have a particular set of problems in our board service area, in that, like Board 8, we have 1 million square foot mall coming to us in Bay Plaza, and plus we have 2 other malls that are coming. And if you're targeting people for retail positions, and you're drafting people for retail positions, these are major retailers, Target, Macy's, Olive Garden, places like that, and they're going to be looking for people. So we've been trying in our own way to get them to pay attention to our communities and our community groups. But if you're doing that targeting outreach and they contact you, we greatly appreciate you coming over to us to talk to them, because they're going to have employee needs, and we have a lot of people who do need jobs. And secondly, and more importantly, we have a situation in our board where we have a lot of skilled tradespeople, highly skilled tradespeople, plumbers, joiners, carpenters, electricians. They're not going to get the jobs that they used to get because of the downturn in the construction industry. And even though you see a lot of construction going on, it's not union. Right. And these people have a lot to offer, and they're out there, and they're just not getting these jobs because the contractors are, actually the builders and the sponsors of these projects aren't really building with union people anymore. And lastly, I noticed that the jobs that you were posting, there's a big problem. most of these are entry-level jobs that you're looking at. We have another big problem. We have a lot of people who have advanced degrees. And we have people who are coming out of graduate school, and they're not getting jobs at all. And I think we need some help in that regard, and I would ask that you take a look at that, because we have a whole coterie of people. In fact, we had a woman in our office who, just got out of Columbia University with a master's degree and can't find a job, and she's an urban planner. So it's a problem. So I just ask you to take a look at the next level up as well. Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. John?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you for your presentation. I have two things, if you don't mind. You said you reach out to the veterans. How do you reach out to the veterans? Do you actually go to the Veterans Affair before these gentlemen or ladies leave the service? Because I mean, I think that's the place where they should be knowing that you're out there before they even leave active duty, so they know where to go to. Because I actually, and just a fair statement for you, because I had a gentleman who just got out of the service, and luckily he went to his, I guess a sergeant, I don't know his rank, but it happened to be my nephew coming out of the service, who lives in Pennsylvania, and he lives and this gentleman is living in the Bronx. He called me to see if there was any work that I had for him. So, luckily, this gentleman had, the connection that everyone else does, but my nephew came to me to see where this gentleman could go. So I think you should be reaching out right to the Veterans Affairs officers to educate them before they even leave, because these guys are coming out without work, and these ladies are coming out without work. And I don't know if you want to comment on that, or let me just ask my second question is, you had mentioned if language barrier is an issue, and I know it is, are you teaching these people to speak English? Is there a
ESL classes?
a class to teach these people English? Because, not to say they shouldn't hire because they're Spanish or whatever it may be, but they need to learn English also, because that's an issue for the customers and the other employees. They can't communicate with their own employees, their own peers, and their constituents. I mean, that's the problem also.
I'm going to actually start from the bottom and work my way back up. Just thinking about teaching them English, we do partner with the libraries, and they do offer ESL classes. So we are working with other partners that can definitely offer that. But to say we do not offer that at our center, but we are working to connect them to those to that organization.
That's very big.
Yeah.
And writing English, you need writing skills.
Yeah. And thinking about the veteran, and I'll also let Victor answer additional, we are working with the VA, so they are considered community partners of ours, so we are working with them in some way. I'm not sure if you want to add.
I think I'll learn the lesson and bring the mic up to me this time. To go a little bit further in that, because the Veterans Initiative, just a little bit of history, it was centralized. All of the veteran activities for Workforce One was centralized in Manhattan, and in April they kind of decentralized it and put out you saw earlier, I guess there are 7 veterans specialists out in the boroughs now. We actually have 2 that sit in our offices at 400 East Fordham Road. And the way that we've gone about initially of engaging the veteran community is, one, we do sit on the Borough President's Veterans Council. We do have a connection with the VA. We also have a connection with the VA Medical Center that's right here on Kingsbridge. But honestly, we're still having some difficulties engaging veterans for the most part because of what you just mentioned. It's word of mouth. Most of the things that, most of the communications that veterans, you feel comfortable when another veteran is telling you about the services that someone else is offering. You almost have to be vetted. And so one of our veteran specialists is a Vietnam veteran who's able to speak that language, and we're making a little bit more inroads. Anthony mentioned yesterday we were over at the Jericho homeless shelter for veterans. And so we ran a screening and talked about the jobs that we have offered over there. So, I mean, it's a work in progress, but we could really use a lot more help in getting that word out to our veteran population, because we do prioritize them as first when they come through our centers. And again, I will say that, you know, it was mentioned that the type of positions that we're offering, when you're dealing in retail and food services, obviously sometimes you're talking about the lower end of the employment spectrum, which doesn't always appeal to veterans. And we do have a lot of veterans in the area on the GI Bill who are in school right now and are coming out with some of those advanced degrees. So it's something we need to look at as far as, you know, increasing and opening up the menu of positions that we're able to garner from the employers in the local area. So.
Yes. Socrates. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Good morning, everyone. I just want to ask the question about the veterans also. And I saw one slide that said you're considered a veteran even if you've only been in the military 1 day. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that, and what does that 1 day mean? Did I go to boot camp and then a day later I couldn't make it, or I was there 2 weeks and got out of boot camp and I got hurt? I mean, 1 day considers you a veteran. If you could break that down, Victor. No problem.
Actually, that according to SBS policy, 1 day is, yes, SBS set the policy for the veterans. It is 1 day, not just for the veterans themselves, but their spouses. We're trying to be as universal access as possible. And so anyone who has served, we understand, especially dealing in the veterans community, that even some people who were never actively deployed, you know, don't even consider themselves having veteran status, but we don't get into that. We're really just talking about people who have served, you know, in some capacity. So that's kind of the criteria and the baseline.
So we went to boot camp,
Yes.
and we hurt our ankle.
Yes.
We were there 2 days, and we came back home.
Yes.
We're a veteran.
Yes. According to our standard, you can access our policy, our services through our priority one. You can, yes, if you spent 1 day in boot camp, hurt your ankle, and then came back, you are eligible for priority one services through the workforce system.
Okay. Andrew?
I was just wondering, I couldn't help but notice one of the first slides in the bar graph, you had Brooklyn as #1 as far as the populations of people who you're servicing. Now, Brooklyn, you know, to their credit, is larger, bigger population, but the Bronx does lead the state, I believe, in unemployment. Shouldn't Bronx be #1 as far as getting this kind of services citywide instead of Brooklyn and Queens? Because I think it was Brooklyn, Queens, and then the Bronx. Could you speak to that?
So all of our services are actually offered through all of our Workforce One centers. The bar graph actually just speaks to the unique traffic that we've seen, and it does so happen that Brooklyn has been the leader of that unique traffic.
Well, why do you think that is, and why is the Bronx centers underserved, would you say?
Well, I mean, considering projects that just happened this year with the Barclays Arena, and other projects that are happening in that particular areas where we saw a large traffic volume of constituents utilizing Workforce One career centers in Brooklyn for that year. You know, when you're breaking down the residency as far as the constituents that utilizes the Workforce One career center, and I think that's what we're trying to explain, is that we only see a breakdown of 18% of constituents that comes into a Workforce One career center in the Bronx. Not that, you know, we're not disclosing that the 1.5 million residents that are here in the borough of the Bronx, which is a large population, we're saying that how many of those constituents know about our services? How many of those constituents know about the new projects and job opportunities that are happening locally here in this area? Of course, in Brooklyn, because of that, you know, large venue that happened with the Barclays Arena, that's where you saw the major influx of participants flocking, even constituents from the Bronx trying to apply for those job opportunities there were, you know, funneling themselves to that center.
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, a lot of great things are happening in the Bronx right now, and we have our own shopping malls, not only our community boards, like Bob was talking about, Ken was talking about. I mean, there's so many job opportunities that are happening right here in the Bronx. And I figured, I mean, yes, Brooklyn has Barclays Center, but I think we have more shopping mall projects in this borough, probably have
Yes,
this time
and
right now than any other borough. So we should be leading the way.
And that's where we want to be, at the forefront with partnerships with the Borough President's Office. When those new Bronx projects do happen and the need is there for those job opportunities, we want to be at the front lines and be able to delegate those job opportunities and spread the word to those constituents of what's happening and what's available. You know, so that way we could then also filter out the process of how to pre-screen according to each job opportunity that happens.
Thank you.
Okay. Tracy?
Hi, thank you. Today we heard a lot about barriers to employment, and I wanted to just, some other areas of concern are for the reentry population, the ex-offenders. We have a reentry task force. We want to make sure that whoever comes through your doors, if you can't serve them, that they're getting referrals to the appropriate agencies or organizations. Also, people with disabilities, I understand that you're doing accommodations, but also too, if there's other services that they're going to be tapped into as well. And also people with drug addiction, and making sure that they also get, because that's a major hindrance to people getting employment, whether it's marijuana use or things like that when they go for screening, especially in the retail sector. So can you answer that?
Socrates?
Yeah, it's special populations, we're talking about formerly incarcerated in the task force. But just like you were probably going to look at discharge planning as far as the military, have you guys been in contact with anyone in certain institutions that provide discharge planning to make that transition a little bit smoother?
So the one thing that I didn't mention, we do have a program also that encompasses community partners, which is the Employment Works program. That's also part of our umbrella. So that works with recently incarcerated or released ex-offenders to get them also into employment. So it's similar to Priority One, not necessarily one day, but it's similar to Priority One that actually, if you've been incarcerated, they're working with you one-on-one to get you to those opportunities, because those account managers are actually working with the employer, letting them know that the candidates I'm bringing to you may have some indiscretion in their background, and working to get them placed. So yes, we do actually have something that's working with recently incarcerated. Yeah.
Bobby?
Thank you. In Community Board 2, the Hunts Point area, I venture to say, and I'm a member of the Economic Development Committee, at one time, Workforce One was a partner, and I have to say that, was a partner in Board 2. Subsequently from then, we don't see you guys, and you're just above us on the third floor of the same building. Okay. And it's a shame. We've had problems with urine analysis when they come back. There's no follow-up with those people that we recommend. We have problems with the reentry program. There's no follow-up with it. And I'm here to attest to it, because the truth is that I've seen it with my own eyes. Sent people, and they still, and this was over a year ago, and still have not had any opportunities or any real assistance from Workforce.
This was, and I'm sorry, you indicated that this was over a year ago?
I've sent people over a year ago, and they still have not been placed.
This is the first time, and again, because I'm the senior account manager at Hunts Point Workforce One, and I've been there now for the past 2 years, and we've also participated in the Hunts Point Task Force meeting. We have general dialogue with Rafael Salamanca. So there was a miscommunication back then that we're trying to eliminate any type of miscommunications. So moving forward, you and I can work together to bridge that gap. So that way, whatever candidates you sent back then who weren't serviced properly, then returns and will work directly with me. I don't want to talk about the past or what happened back then. I want to talk about moving forward, bridging that gap, creating a stronger relationship, and creating that open dialogue between you and me.
Adeline?
I am Adeline Walker from Chicago. I'm the chair of the meeting. I had a pleasure of meeting Victor right before the meeting, and I definitely want you in our office. We have a huge problem with unemployment in the Bronx. Everyone here has said that. But I have a problem. I'm hearing too often from all the youth that my house is a revolving door of youth who are looking for jobs, and they refuse to go back to Workforce One in the Bronx. They go to Brooklyn. They leave their homes 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning to go to Brooklyn. So whatever is working, because as my colleague here said something about why does Brooklyn have a bigger score than we do of getting people jobs or getting services, one of the things they said was the technology of the phone. They go on their phone the night before and they can see a list of all the jobs. And they didn't have to go there and put their phone number down. It's set up, I think, through the internet somehow that they can connect with the phone. Now, is your website connected like that as Brooklyn? So whatever they're doing in Brooklyn, we need to bring it to the Bronx, is what I'm saying. And I think it's a good step that you're connecting with the community board leaders now, because if you need an office space and you need a phone and a computer, we have it ready. Because we want to get our people employed. The other thing, the veterans, the youth, and the young adults, great. The disabled, I'm for that. But we have another population, the baby boomers. And they're going to be coming in droves. And we need to be ready for the baby boomers who don't want to sit home, who want to do something else, and we need to know how to reroute that energy that's coming in now. And that's a big resource that we need to focus on in our community. And a lot of them are highly qualified. So I'm impressed that you're working with people who've made at least $57,000 a year. But like the District 10 community board leader said, we have people who are overqualified for some of the jobs that you offer. And then we, of course, have young people who didn't finish the associate's degree or the GED. Then we have the other part. You are linked with the Bronx Library. I met with them. They don't have enough room or capacity to serve the needs. They have a line of people standing outside waiting for these classes. So we need to find a way to link that throughout the borough with all our community boards to offer that, because that's a huge need for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm thinking just off the top of my head, and we might have to put this in a pilot program where each 12 community board designates a potential day for a Workforce One representative to go out, since you're offering the office space for us to do actual recruitment events at your respective community boards. Let's talk about that. Let's make some type of plan set in motion, so that way each community board is responsible for identifying constituents who have those type of barriers that we could address on a one-on-one basis, and then identify what opportunities we currently have, their work experience, and what we could tie them into. And even if we potentially don't have that right match or opportunity, we're at least gearing them in the right direction on steps how to obtain the type of employment that they're looking for. At the end of the day, it's all about setting up, that type of dialogue and rapport, so that way they feel that there's someone listening to them and giving them that guidance into the right direction of what they're looking to do when re-engaging back into the workforce.
I really appreciate that, and I think that's going to work. What I also have to advise or suggest, we have right down the block from us, a few doors down, a senior center. And that's another good resource to bring your services to.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of seniors that we had a meeting with Department with the aging, and they're not addressing the depression that a lot of seniors are going through because they don't have enough to do. Right. So maybe there's a part where they can play the mentor. Maybe they could be the ones giving the language classes and the tutoring and helping the others that need jobs. And maybe that's a resource that we need to tap also. It's just another idea.
agree.
Thank you.
I think we heard some very good ideas today, and certainly we've given you a lot of work to do, but we feel that you're competent enough to do it. Thank you. I think today's meeting was very productive. And thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.